All of these foods, snacks, drinks, and other items you see behind me are all red in some capacity. Now this is due to the artificial additive originating from petroleum called red food dye. It's linked to causing cancer, but yet still found in nearly 3,000 brand name food products in America. It's banned in hundreds of other countries, the US not being one of them. Good evening. My name is Chloe Smith, and my peers and I are here to discuss one of the major faults in the American public health system. The dye can either be identified as Red 3 or Red 40, and it can be found on the nutrition and ingredients labels on various packaged goods. There are massive inconsistencies in the dye's regulation status. For example, in the European Union, Fanta orange sodas are colored with carrot extracts, while the US versions use yellow 5 and red 40. In the United Kingdom, McDonald's strawberry shakes are colored with actual strawberries. However, the US versions use, you guessed it, red 40. The dye is banned in cosmetics due to its health risks. However, it's oddly enough approved for consumption. This can be attributed to a misconception that began decades ago. In the 1980s, the FDA recognized its cancer-causing properties in rats. And this is why in the 1990s, they decided to place their ban on it in cosmetics. However, at that point, it was already approved for its consumption in food. The FDA then said that they would quote-unquote take action in order to level the playing field. However, this statement was made over 32 years ago, and the FDA has yet to speak on this issue since. Certain states in the U.S. are beginning to take action in order to combat the FDA's lack of it. California became the first state to ban the additive through the California Food Safety Act. In this act, signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, it omits the usage of brominated vegetable oil, propylparaben, potassium bromate, and red dye number 3. It's scheduled to go into effect in 2027 in order to give companies the time and opportunity to reformulate their products. Experts and economists project this to spark much-needed change and hopefully inspire the FDA to finally revisit and alter their outdated laws. To hear more about the medical implications of this carcinogen, here is Jennifer Atkinson.
Although approved by the FDA, the most commonly consumed red dyes, Red 3 and Red 40, have been proven to cause negative medical effects, most notably cancer, DNA damage, and hyperactivity. In the 1980s, the FDA conducted an experiment on lab rats investigating the effects of Red 3. After orally ingesting large quantities of the red dye 3, the rats exhibited signs of thyroid cancer. This prompted the FDA to ban Red 3 in all cosmetics and externally applied drugs. However, they allowed the continued use of Red 3 in foods. A similar experiment reported by the Oxford Academic Society of Toxicology tested the effects of amaranth and Red 40 on rats by orally feeding them 10 milligrams of the dyes per kilogram of their body weight. Just 3 hours after ingestion, the rats exhibited signs of inflammation and DNA damage within the colon. Additionally, Red 40 contains a component called benzidine, which has been linked to pancreatic and bladder cancer. Furthermore, Red 40 has been proven to cause hyperactivity, fidgeting, and brain buzzing within children. A report by the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment found that 64% of studies show a link between synthetic food dyes and adverse behavioral outcomes in children. Despite these alarming effects, the red food dye continues to be largely unregulated and is found in almost every product. Regular toothpaste for children contains the component Red 40 despite its known effects on children's behavior. Additionally, the #1 prescribed ADHD medication in America, Vyvanse, contains the carcinogenic Red 3. With no limitation on these red dyes, the companies will continue to use them and endanger public health. In order to prioritize America's health, the FDA should regulate red food dye by further implementing the California Food Safety Act across the nation. And now, with one of our possible solutions, here is Avery Nitsch.
The possible solutions we considered is switching to natural dyes, implementing warning labels, taxing manufacturers, and furthering the California Food Safety Act. Our first possible solution was natural dyes. Natural dyes used to be very commonly used. However, with the adaptation and creation of synthetic dyes, natural dyes have become a dying industry. One type of natural red dye is carminic acid. This is found in a bug called cochineal. Another type of red natural dye is in plants. Recently, the USDA Forest Service reported that scientists have found that when plants contain tannic acid, the dyes extracted from them are just as strong and long-lasting as synthetic dyes. However, using natural dyes comes with several faults. When companies switch, they would have to source these dyes. For natural dyes, many states in the U.S., like Washington, already have established businesses and industries that have been growing and extracting plant dyes for several years. With carminic acid, cochineal farming is primarily in South America and Mexico, so companies would have to outsource to these countries to get their dyes, which would provide increased costs for their dyes and products. Another issue with carminic acid is it comes with a moral dilemma for vegans. This would lead to companies losing customers and decreasing their profits. Currently, the synthetic food dye market makes $1.5 billion a year and is projected to make $3.5 billion a year by 2027. So, by banning all synthetic dyes, it would lead to a large economic crash. Now, on to my colleague Neola and Edwin to address our other possible solutions.
Placing warning labels on foods containing red food dye was another possible solution. Essentially, these labels would alert consumers of the presence of red food dyes and any adverse effects, and they would be on the front of packaged foods containing these dyes. In the European Union, there's already a strong system of warning labels being placed on a wide variety of products containing a wide array of various food additives. Warning labels are a proactive approach and a more feasible solution in improving public health by informing consumers of the harms associated with red food dye. This solution may cause slightly higher prices for consumers, but overall the costs and disruptions to the economy remain minimal. Even more importantly, this solution could incentivize companies to reformulate their products. However, according to the National Institute of Health, a United States government panel rejected calls for warning labels due to lack of evidence and skepticism that there would be an impact on consumer behavior. We agree with this assessment and therefore did not choose this solution, as it doesn't address the fundamental problem that these are the cheapest, most accessible, and brightest goods in the market. Implementing a tax on food manufacturers to reduce or eliminate the use of red food dye was another solution that we considered. On the positive side, this tax would create economic incentives for companies to replace products with red food dyes with safer alternatives, and any revenue generated would be able to be allocated towards public health initiatives. However, there are concerns about increased prices for consumers, and this would only exacerbate an already existing disparity in accessing affordable food options. Therefore, we did not choose this solution, as although it was meant to incentivize companies to reformulate, it may primarily only negatively impact consumers due to higher prices and cost spillovers. Here is Anishka Valenki discussing our best solution.
Our best solution is to gradually implement the California Food Safety Act throughout all the states in the nation. Under the Federal Drug, Cosmetic, and Food Act, the Delaney Clause requires the FDA to not approve the use of any food additive that can cause cancer in humans or animals in any dose. Yet, as you've heard earlier, red dye number 3 has caused cancer in rats, and red dye 40 contains a human carcinogen. Yet the FDA has done nothing to ban these food dyes in the past 32 years. Since California is already working on implementing a ban on red dye number 3, it is feasible for the other states to follow in suit and use this ban in their states as well. California is using 3 to 4 years to give companies time to reformulate their products to get rid of the red dye. It is good for other states, if they implement this ban, to use this same strategy of providing companies reformulation period. However, our solution can still have some possible drawbacks. One major drawback is the economic shift that the food industry may experience as a whole. Since companies will be removing such a prominent additive from their foods, it is likely that food prices may increase as a result. This price change can also lead to consumer backlash on these companies. Yet, our group has come up with some strategies to combat these economic issues. One strategy is to provide government financial assistance programs, such as grants or lower interest loans, to help companies cover the cost of research, ingredient testing, and equipment upgrades, and to ease them into a newer economy. Another strategy we proposed was for for the government to implement stronger market incentives for companies such as certification programs, which would grant companies who have reached the preferred safety standards with government certification and would increase consumer attention for these companies. The only step remaining for the FDA is to ban red food dye throughout the nation as a whole.
Thank you. So, Chloe, how did the group decide to include Neola's lens into the overall presentation?
So Neola researched the economic impacts of our issue as a whole, and what I didn't really understand in the beginning is like what would happen if red food dye was just kind of taken away as a whole. I didn't realize to the extent like how many foods it was in, and the economy, let's just say, would suffer greatly if we just took it out as a whole. And I was just kind of like, oh, like let's just go get this done kind of thing, but there are logistics behind everything. And without Neola's economic lens, I think it really kind of centered all of us in a way, because we were better able to understand the actual effects of the possible solutions that we were proposing.
Thank you. Neola, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem your group identified?
To me, Avery's lens was the one that had the greatest impact in understanding this issue of red food dye. When we were going into the topic, we already kind of had a general understanding of the topic and why we were doing this, but with Avery's lens, we were able to understand how we were doing this, and that was really the center of like how our entire like presentation and research, because through Avery's lens, we were able to see the FDA's past regulations of brominated vegetable oil and red number 2 and other synthetic their regulations of other synthetic food colorings. So that was important because that's how we were able to craft our solution.
Thank you. Anishka, what is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from your team presentation, and why?
One example of a compelling argument that we decided to exclude was from Avery's findings. She focused on a specific dye or specific additive that the FDA banned prior, which was brominated vegetable oil. And this, as Neola stated earlier in her response, even though this was helpful for us coming to a consensus on why the FDA made certain regulations and certain bans on certain additives, it wasn't really specific to red food dye. And even though it gave us a clearer understanding, we didn't see a need to include it in the presentation, as we were focusing our problem and solution to banning just red food dye.
Thank you. Jennifer, what is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
So our solution focuses on implementing the California Food Safety Act across the nation, and this is like a gradual ban on the red food dye. When initially starting my individual research, I focused on like immediately banning red 3, but by learning about the economic impacts such from Neola's lens, I was able to know how detrimental that would be to the economy and also consumers. So.
All right, thank you. Avery, describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that made you think differently about your team's solution or conclusion.
Neola's research on the economic effects of banning red food dye made us think differently about what our final solution should be, because we contemplated using switching to natural dyes and using warning labels, but Neola's research really pinpointed how we thought about our issue and what would lead to the least amount of negative changes in the economy and socially.
Thank you.